Last week, Pastor Daphne shared with us on doing God's will. When she mentioned that to do God's will, we have to be obedient and it requires us to take action. So today I'd like to share that the action that we need to take is to take up our cross daily and follow Him. So in Luke 9 verse 23 to 24, it says, "Then He said to them all, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." But oftentimes when we talk about taking up the cross, carrying the cross, we often relate it to suffering. Because when we see the cross, we see Jesus' excruciating pain. We see the blood that he shed for our sake, right? But no doubt in life that we will go through hard times and suffering. But let's look at the passage once more. Right? It says here, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. So to take up our cross daily means to deny ourselves. And to deny ourselves means to be deprived of something, to give up something. Great example in this, where he had to give up his heavenly dwelling place to come to earth, to walk with men, to live with men, so that man might know God. And he did so that he could be the ultimate redeemer for mankind, right? Being one who has no sin, he took on our sins on the cross and paid the penalty for our sins. Right? He fully denied himself. So how does denying ourselves look like? I believe denying ourselves will look like pursuing God's interests, pursuing His will, pursuing His desires instead of our own. It will also mean to obey His commandments, even though when it's hard to do so. In John 15 verse 10, it says, "If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in His love." Jesus is saying that if you love me, you will obey my commandments. Right? He's not saying that if you love me, you will spend time with me, so on and so forth. But He's saying here, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. But what are His commandments? Right? In verse 12 itself, it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." In Matthew 22 verse 37, this is also a famous commandment that we know as well. It says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." So for us today, taking up our cross simply looks like this, that we have to deny ourselves to love God more and to love others more, right? When we choose to love God more, it requires us to sacrifice ourselves, sacrifice our own will, sacrifice our own desires in order to follow Him, in order to do what He wants and not what we want. In loving others, we also will have to sacrifice sometimes our own time, right? When we choose to love someone, not because of how we feel, right, but for the sake of them. When we choose to love someone, oftentimes it might be uncomfortable, where we have to leave our comfort zone in order to love another person. Or at times it might be inconvenient as well. But loving someone, loving others, requires us to deny ourselves. So today, I guess the question for us today really is, what areas of our lives do we need to deny in order to love God more, in order to love others more, right? And even as I come to a close to this sharing today, I just want to encourage you to take the next few minutes as the video ends, just to ask the Lord to reveal to you, right? What areas of your life do you need to deny in order to love Him more, in order to love others more? Who is God calling you to love? So let's just seek to be people who love God, people who love each other. God bless.